CP24, Toronto's breaking news.
Welcome back to On the Rocket. We're still here on a moving streetcar live, moving around the streets of Toronto, taking your calls, emails, tweets, and talking about transit. I thought it's our last segment. We don't have too much time left. I wanted to go right back to the calls. We have Rick on the line from Toronto. Hello, Rick.
Good evening, Councillor. Congratulations on the new show.
Well, thanks very much.
I've got two questions, one general, one specific. The general question is, does the TTC have any plans to open up Wheel-Trans, a fabulous service, to the visually impaired? And I'll just do the second question. I have a son who's visually impaired, and you may or may not know that the unemployment rate for blind people is quite high. So getting a decent job is often quite difficult. I've tried for the last 2 years to get my son accepted on Wheel-Trans, only to be turned down even after appeals. And I contacted.
So, Rick, we don't have a lot of time. Just wondering if we could just. I'm sorry. Just we've only got a few minutes left on the whole show for this this episode.
The general question, Councillor, is it going to be opened up to visually impaired? And two, is there anything you can do specifically through your offices?
So, you know, Mitch, the caller, Rick, was asking about the visually impaired. Wheel-Trans provides service to people who can't use the conventional system. I know that we've worked a lot with the CNIB to make the system more accessible to people with visual disabilities. These new announcements, of course, are there, audible and visual, for people who can't hear. And, you know, there's some other wayfinding. Why isn't Wheel-Trans, to this point, been accessible to people with visual disabilities?
Well, it's primarily a question of capacity. How many people can we carry? And we have to, as with all of our resource-constrained services, give priority to the people who absolutely cannot use the regular route system. So there are people who use mobility devices who have such limited personal mobility, they can't use the regular system, whereas someone visually impaired may well be able to, as we improve the system with things like wayfinding tiles and backlit signage and audio announcement of stops and so on. So we're trying to make it so
it's a prioritization, really. I mean, Wheel-Trans has limited budgets, it's got a huge need, and it's just an issue of prioritization. We'll have to, as we review the standards, we continue to do that. You know, I want to get to one quick other email because it really was a question that comes up. It's an email from Hattie, and it comes in, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because it goes on for a while, but it's explaining, it's really asking the question why we don't have a transfer that allows you to hop on and hop off the system. And Mitch, maybe really quickly, you can just let us know why the TTC to this point hasn't accepted like a 2-hour transfer, for example.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, it's funding. Right now, if somebody wants to make 2 trips in an hour, then rightly or wrongly, good or bad, they will typically pay 2 fares, and that's part of how we generate the revenue necessary to fund the system. If they could make both trips on 1 transfer and 1 fare, we'd lose some of the revenue.
So really what it comes down to is an issue of cost. I mean, I understand somewhere around 15 to 20 millions of lost fare revenue, and I know in the past we've always said that we'd rather have more bus service than than doing the transferable transfer.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing I'd add to that is I don't want anybody to think that as staff we don't want riders to have all the convenience and all the flexibility possible, but we can only do it within the constraints of the funding that's given to us.
So, Mitch, you know, it's funny, we've been talking transit for almost a whole hour here. We've got a few seconds left. It's the first show. Thank you very much for joining us. How do you think it went?
Well, you know, it's kind of a kick to do this. I've never been on telly, so this is sort of different for me. But doing it on a streetcar, in the very favorite part of the streetcar for me, what we jokingly call the park car at the back, whenever I travel with my family, and we take transit all the time, we love to sit right here and the kids talk, and it's the funkiest part of the ride.
It's great. You know, Mitch, I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks because there's so many things we didn't cover. I mean, I can think of about 10 other topics. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I mean, we're going to bring on other TTC staff, and we're going to be able to answer a lot of questions. So, you know, Mitch, this is the premiere edition of On the Rocket. Thank you for joining me, and Mitch, thank you for being on here. Join us next time, November 26th, as we take more of your calls, answer more of your questions here on the Rocket. Good night.
24. Toronto's breaking news.